What's up, YouTube? It's your boy John from Project Ellsworth. On November 16th, 1976, Brian DePalma's film Carrie was released to the world. So what would any normal 49-year-old guy do to celebrate Carrie's 44th birthday? Quite frankly, I have no idea. But I'm going to color. First and foremost, as always, I hope everybody out there is doing well and staying safe. And again, I'd like to say another thank you to my good buddy Mark from over at Mark of Horror for sending me this coloring book. All right, let's get this opened up to Carrie. And there she is. That is what we're working with, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. So we're going to need some pink, some peach, some yellow for her hair, blue for her eyes, and obviously red for the blood. All right, 1976 Carrie. Absolutely love that film. Totally legendary movie. It's definitely one of those movies that helped form me into the horror movie fan that I've become. All right, so what are we going to do? Let's start at the top. Get her hair out of the way. I know Carrie was like a strawberry blonde. She was, so I don't know if I would color that like, I don't know, copper. I think would be too dark. So for simplicity's purposes, we're going to go with yellow. I think yellow will work just fine. Like I said, I think Carrie was sort of a strawberry blonde. So yellow is going to work. I think yellow is going to do the trick. So I have to assume that most of you out there have already seen Carrie. I've seen it a countless number of times, and I never get tired of that movie. I absolutely love it. For some reason, my wife never really got into that movie because for some reason, Sissy Spacek always just kind of freaked her out. I don't get that, but, to each their own. We all have individual things, I guess, that kind of freak us out in life. But for me, Sissy Spacek simply is not one of those things. But, I don't know why it bothers. She freaks Janae out as bad as she does, but she does. I wish I could change that, just simply based on the fact of how great of a movie I think Carrie actually is. And think of the cast, Piper Laurie and Sissy Spacek and John Travolta and PJ Souls. I didn't check. I don't remember what the name of the girl who was John Travolta's girlfriend, the primary antagonist in this movie. I don't remember what her name was. And I also don't remember the gym teacher's name in Carrie. Or the girl who actually was sort of friends, I don't want to say friends with Carrie, but she was the girlfriend of the greatest American hero. I don't remember that guy's name either. So apparently I didn't do my homework before I started this project, but I think the important part is I do remember that it's Sissy Spacek and it's Piper Laurie as the primary roles in that movie. I think Piper Laurie was also very well cast. She's creepy as hell for those of you who have not seen Carrie. I'm telling you, that woman was about as creepy as could be. And for those of you who have seen Carrie, I have no doubt that you would agree with that statement. Piper Laurie was absolutely as creepy as could be. She was one of those Bible beater mothers who, she was sort of, I don't know if you would call her a martyr, but I don't know. I don't want to break this down into a religious conversation either. She was overly religious, I'll put it that way. And she projected that onto Carrie. And if Carrie did something that she thought was sacrilege or against the Bible or against the Word of God, she would lock Carrie in a closet, like a prayer closet, if I'm not mistaken, is what she called it. It's really creepy. Just a very creepy role for her in that movie. And she did it very well. John Travolta was another one of the antagonists in that movie. He wasn't the main antagonist, but he was an antagonist nonetheless. I don't know. That may have been his first movie role. I think he was doing he did Welcome Back Welcome Back Kotter prior to Carrie, but I'm not absolutely certain of that. I believe he did, but I didn't check the dates. I was also a very big fan of Welcome Back Kotter, as a side note there. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that. That was just a fantastic high school sitcom. Vinnie Barbarino, Juan Epstein, Arnold Horshack, and Freddie Boom Boom Washington were the main characters. The teacher is actually Mr. Cotter, or Mr. Cotter, for those of you who actually know what that show is. I'm sure you know what that reference is. That was Gabe Kaplan, was Mr. Cotter. And it was just a really fun show. I thoroughly enjoyed that. There was a release of the first season of that on DVD many moons ago, and I picked that up, but they never released the rest of it for whatever reason. But enough of Welcome Back Kotter. We're here to talk about Carrie. Yeah, this is one of the Stephen King movies that I thought was just unimaginably good. I loved Carrie, and I still love Carrie. Carrie's on that list. We just recently did a top 20 for 2020 list for Jason the Horror Man Jason from Horrific Nightmares and Joe the Horror Man series that they created for the horror community. And Carrie was pretty high on my list. And I think it always will be. I think it would be very hard pressed for very many movies to come along to overtake that on my list. And another thing that movie has going for it for me is nostalgia. So if you throw the nostalgia factor in there, it's literally impossible for something to come in and take that off of my list, because you're only young once. And you only have that early influence, in your life when you're young. And those days, unfortunately for me, are long gone. Young is gone. I definitely don't consider myself to be old, quote unquote old, but I'm sure a lot of people out there probably would consider me to be old. Thankfully, I'm not one of them. I don't think that, well, I'm not saying that I look like a spring chicken, but I don't think that I look my age. Clearly, I don't act my age. I'm 49 years old. I'm sitting here with a coloring book on YouTube. But yeah, like, nostalgia it plays a role in shaping who we are and what we like and what's important to us. And once something is held in high regard for you as far as nostalgia goes, I think it would be hard pressed for something to come along for you to view in a more important light. And for me, as a very young, easily influenced horror fan, Carrie is definitely one of those movies that said, I really like this stuff. How can I see more of this? Where can I get more of this? Carrie definitely is in there for me. I loved Carrie. All right, let's do her dress now. Her dress was pink, and this is about as close to pink as I had in this crayon box, and it is carnation pink. So I hope it works. It's going to have to work. No other choice. But Carrie was definitely on that nostalgia thing for me. Carrie and Phantasm and Jaws. I don't know how many of you are out there are familiar with the movie called Death Race 2000. That's definitely something that influenced me into the blood and guts type of stuff. Even though you really don't see any in there. Death Race 2000 was basically a race across the country, and you had to kill people to score points. David Carradine was in that. Sylvester Stallone, a very young Sylvester Stallone was in that. A very young, all of them. They're all obviously very young. It was made a number of years ago. But that falls into there. All those movies were, the thing that they had in common for me was that I was a very young kid, and my neighbor across the street had a relative that came over to visit for a couple of weeks one summer, and they had a Betamax, I don't know if you'd even call it a VCR, a Betamax player, and a whole bunch of movies. And in those movies was Carrie and Death Race 2000, and Jaws I don't think was in there. I think I saw Jaws on regular network television. But Carrie, Death Race 2000, and Phantasm were absolutely in the movie collection that person had. And I watched those movies and was completely blown away by them. Phantasm scared me to death. The ending of Carrie, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Carrie that was, creeped me out, and I found to be very creepy. But the ending still makes me jump, even though I've seen it 1,000 times and I know it's coming. I just, in my mind, I guess, can't time it out right, and it always gets me. Obviously not as bad now as it did when I was younger, but it's still just such a wonderful scene and the perfect jump scare at the end of a movie. It's just awesome. It's fantastic. Love Carrie. Sissy Spacek you couldn't have cast a better person to actually portray Carrie, in my opinion. She was awesome. It's the feel of that movie, the look of that movie, the story, the ending, just everything about it. And obviously it was, I'm sure everyone knows that was based on a Stephen King novel. And here's actually a little bit of a cool story about that. Is at the time Stephen King had written Carrie, he had been struggling as an author. He couldn't get major publication. He had short stories in local newspapers and things like that. He gained a little bit of notoriety, but he just could not make it big. He couldn't catch a big break. And I don't know whether you know it or not, Stephen King's wife is also an author. And one day, she had come home, I believe she came home from work, and found a significant piece of writing in the trash in their house. And when she approached him, to say, what is this? This is, what are you throwing this away for? He basically was throwing in the towel at that point. He said, I can't take it anymore. I'm doing this for nothing. It's a big waste of time, so on and so forth. And she pulled that out of the trash and sat that in front of him and said, no, look at all the time and effort you've put into this. You're not going to give up. You are not allowed to give up. Finish this. And lo and behold, that piece of work that he had thrown in the trash turns out to be a book about a telekinetic girl named Carrie. So, I just always enjoyed that story, that he tried forever to make it big and he couldn't catch a break. And just when he was ready to throw in the towel, and in his mind he threw in the towel, his wife came along and said, you're not quitting. You're not allowed to quit. I won't let you quit. This is too much of a dream for you. And she pulled that book out and she made him finish it. And lo and behold, we have Carrie. I just think that's a cool story. If that's not, something to give you sort of the pep talk, don't give up kind of thing, I don't know what is. I just think that's wonderful. It just goes to show you should never quit because you never know. I can't remember what Stephen King's wife's name is. I feel bad now telling that awesome story and I can't even remember her name. I've actually never read anything by her either. I read Carrie a lot of years ago. And I read it pretty quick. I remember I was on a road trip with my parents and I sat in the back of the car and read Carrie. That was way back when I still lived at home. Life hadn't had a chance to beat me up yet. And I thoroughly enjoyed Carrie. I thought it was very, very good. I actually read it I read the paperback version of Carrie. I wish I still had it. That was before I started collecting everything under the sun horror-wise like a nut. But eventually I went out and bought this book right here, and I've never read it because I read the paperback. I just had to have this book because of how much I loved Carrie. But unfortunately, I got rid of that book that I actually did read. Read the first couple of Stephen King books that I ever read in my life, I read on paperback. And no longer have any of them, like a goofball. Alright. So yeah, she's nice and bloody here. I have to assume that you've all seen Carrie already. And for those of you that are out there that by any chance have not seen Carrie, I highly recommend that you look for it and just check it out. It's so good. I mean, how do you not like Carrie? Very old movie. I don't remember what year Carrie. Well, yeah, I do remember 1976. I think that the book was written in 1974 or 5, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly. I was probably, if it came out in 1976, the movie that is, if the movie came out in 76, I probably saw it 79, 80, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly. Obviously, Phantasm had to have been out, and I think Phantasm was either 78 or 79. So it was right around there, someplace. Very late 70s, very early 80s, I'll put it that way. Alright, finishing up the blood on her dress. She's actually turning out pretty good. I was looking at the dates. I was trying to figure out what I could do with Mark's book that he sent me here. What I could do to utilize the rest of this. I mean, I did a couple of comic videos for the Halloween stuff in this book. But I was trying to figure out what else I could do. And then I looked and saw that Carrie, if something made me look at Carrie and I saw the date and I was like, you know what? Let me do that for the anniversary of Carrie. So, lo and behold, here we are. So, turned out pretty good. Only used 5 crayons. She turned out awesome. Again, Mark, thank you so much for this gift. It's really neat. Very different idea, and you give us out here in the horror community a little bit of an art project to work on. So that's it. That is my rendition of Carrie. Once again, Mark, I know I keep saying it, but thank you so much for the coloring book. Such a cool idea, man. I really like it. And again, this is fine. I'm finding coloring to be strangely relaxing. So I would anticipate that you're going to see more of this coming on my channel. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm certainly enjoying creating that content. And I just think it's neat. It's different. That's enough. I'm going to get out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching. Later, folks.